Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. This is Augustus Corbett, and as the title says on the live, on this Facebook Live, I want to give some legal analysis on the R. Kelly case or cases. We have seen, um, all of us, I'm sure, have seen these videos from, I think, CBS this morning, where Miss Gayle King interviewed Mr. Kelly, and um, it's been wow. I don't think I've ever seen that before, and um, so I want to give some legal analysis. Okay, I think some folks. Yes, how you doing? How you doing, Mike? Scoot, it's my little cousin right there. I love that boy. Well, he ain't a boy no more. He's a grown man now. In fact, wife and what, two, three children. But I still see him as my little cousin. So I'm glad you joined, Mike. Um, give everybody my regard. Give your wife, children, mom, the bishop, the apostle, everybody. Give them all my regard. So I want to give just a little legal analysis here and just share a few things about this case. I practice criminal defense here in the state of Texas. I've represented all types of people over the past 13, 14, well, about 12 years. I've been licensed here about 12 years. And so this, you know, this is something, just seeing R. Kelly. Now, I'm not necessarily a fan of R. Kelly. I don't know his music. I do know that one song called "I Believe I Can Fly." That's about the only song that I know about R. Kelly. I don't follow his music, so I'm not a fan. But this is not about his music. This is about the charges that he faced, and I just want to share a little bit with the audience, with you all, about these charges. Now, to make sure we're on the same page, Mr. Kelly is charged with 10 counts of aggravated criminal sexual abuse. Aggravated criminal sexual abuse. I'm not real familiar with these specific charges because they are in the state of Illinois, and I practice here in Texas. We don't have anything quite like this. But essentially, it means that he um, raped, or he raped um, 10 different women, or he raped a number of women 10 different times. And if I heard correctly, 3 or 4 maybe reportedly were underage when this occurred. I'm not certain about that. And by the way, let me share with you that when it comes to being underage, here in the state of Texas, if an adult has any kind of sexual relationship with someone who's under 17 years old, that is sexual assault of a child under 17 years old. And if the child is under 14 years old, it's aggravated sexual assault. And there are other ways that it can be aggravated. And let me just tell you, it just gets really, 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 really serious when you got all that going on. I'm representing someone now who's charged with sexual assault of a child, and these are some very, very tough cases. But there are 5 different things that I want to look at as I talk about Robert Kelly's situation, R. Kelly, Mr. Kelly. 5 different things I want to talk about. Number one, I actually did a Facebook Live on this the other day. I hope you all can hear me okay. If you can hear me, would you be so kind? Yes. Okay, very good. I see one of my older sisters. I didn't say old, sis. I said older. She's my elder. She's older than me. She's watching. Much love to you, sis. And some others have joined. But if you all can hear me fine, would you just say yes, we can hear you? Would you just type yes, we can hear you? Because I'm not sure. I think I got this set up right. I'm old school. I don't know if I'm doing all this right, but I think it's right. Just someone please quickly just say yes. Just give me a thumbs up. You can hear me. I also see here I've been joined by Miss Ladidra Atkins, who is a tremendous attorney here in the county, Dallas County. Tremendous lawyer. She is a powerhouse, and so she'll jump in here and let us all know if I say something wrong. Miss Atkins, good to see you. So there are 5 things though that I want to talk about here with this. First of all, I did a Facebook Live. Okay, very good. Thank you, Ladidra. All right, so the first thing that I want to talk about is the presumption of innocence. The presumption of innocence. Now, I did a Facebook Live on this a couple of weeks ago, and it bears repeating that this man is innocent, presumed innocent under Illinois law until a court of competent jurisdiction finds him guilty, after a jury of his peers hear all the evidence in this case, all the evidence that have been filtered through the rules of evidence, evidence that comes in after there's been cross-examination, evidence that is able to establish that he committed this offense and every element of this offense beyond a reasonable doubt. And I'll come back to this burden of proof thing and just that's 4th on my list. But until those things happen, Mr. Kelly is presumed innocent. And so I'm looking at all the folks on TV who've already found him guilty, who've already convicted him, who consider him to be the scourge of the earth. They're hating him and all of this, and they don't know yet. They don't know yet whether this man is guilty of these offenses or not. He's only been indicted. He's just been indicted. An indictment, let me show you something. Let me show you something, please. An indictment is just a piece of paper, just like this right here, where folks have listened to some evidence that they believe reach the very, very low burden of proof, which is probable cause, which is about that much evidence. And that's why it's always said you can indict a ham sandwich, because probable cause doesn't take a lot of evidence. So they return an indictment, 10 indictments it seems, but it is worth that right there. They just throw it in the garbage can. It's just, those are allegations. Now, I don't know if they're true or not. I don't know. And neither do the folks out there on television who are condemning him and sending him to hell and jail before anybody hears any of the evidence. This is just what the state and the accusers say happened. This man, under our Constitution, has the right to force the state to present whatever evidence they got. He doesn't have to do anything. He sit over there and be quiet and go to sleep if he want to. I'm talking about doing trial, because the state is going to have to prove that case. They're going to have to prove their cases, and they've not done it yet. They have not proved. So he is presumed innocent under Illinois law, just like he would be presumed innocent here under Texas law and every other state in the union. So my point is, don't go yet condemning the man until we know what the jury says and what the jury finds. I don't know if he did it. And of course, if he did, then that's a whole different ballgame. But until a jury says he did it, we shouldn't condemn him. We shouldn't do it. I heard Gayle King this morning and some of the other folks say things like, they asked him in an interview, Mr. Kelly, if all these women are saying that you did this, why shouldn't we believe them? I mean, that's the proof that she has. I mean, so she's saying just because a bunch of people said you did this, that's enough for him to be guilty. Not under the law. No, no, no. He's not guilty until a jury hears the evidence and returns a guilty verdict after they've heard everything. Okay? One side always seems right until you hear the other side. So first thing keep in mind is Mr. Kelly enjoys the presumption of innocence, as do every other criminal defendant, until the state, until the government proves its case. And while we're there, let me say this. Part of my job as a criminal defendant is to stand with people in their lowest moments. And I'm telling you, I'm the guy for that. That's been my heart even before I became a lawyer. When everybody else condemns that person and thinks the worst of that person and looks down on that person, God gave me the heart to stand beside that person in their lowest moment. You know why? And it's not just because I'm a lawyer, but it's because that's what Jesus does for us. Yes, I got to bring Jesus in here because he died for Robert Kelly. He died for me. He died for you. He died for all of us. And he knew many of us, including me, were rotten to the core because we were born as sinners, yet he gave his life for us. He stands with us. He advocates for us. Oftentimes in our lowest moment when no one, I've tried cases where not even family members showed up to support our client, the defendant. So I stand proudly beside folks that the world has condemned. That's my job as a criminal defense lawyer, and it's also my job as a Christian, not to treat somebody as if they are the worst thing on the earth because of other people's allegations. Okay? So he enjoys the presumption of innocence. Second, now a lot of people have been asking, should Mr. Kelly have given the interview that he gave to Gayle King? Should he have spoken? Well, let me say this up front. Most of us attorneys do not like our clients talking to anybody when they have been accused of crimes. I don't like it. I advise against it because even things that they think are not just outright confessions, and oftentimes they're not, they are what we in the law call admissions. And so they do more damage than the lay person, the average person thinks when he's out here or she's out here just talking and talking and talking and talking and talking. Prosecutors are going to listen to that and they're going to pick that apart. And if Mr. Kelly should decide to take the stand, if his cases go to trial, they're going to be holding up that video from the interview, and they're going to be, comparing what Mr. Kelly said in the interview with what he's now saying on the stand, and they're going to show, inconsistencies and so forth and so on. So for that reason, for those reasons and more, we lawyers don't like, most of us, I would say nearly all of us, don't like for our clients to talk about their cases to anyone, especially not on national TV. Okay? Now that said, it is, and that right not to say anything is a Fifth Amendment right that he has. He doesn't have to incriminate himself. He doesn't have to take the stand. He doesn't have to talk to reporters. He doesn't have to talk to the media. He doesn't have to talk to the judge about his guilt or innocence. If it's a jury trial, he doesn't talk. So his right not to incriminate himself is protected by the Fifth Amendment. Okay. Now, that said, he has the right, however, to talk if he wants to. It's up to him. It's his life. It's his cases. If he want to talk, he can talk, and he can override his lawyer. I don't know what happened. I don't know if that's what happened, but he could have said to his lawyer or lawyers, I'm going to talk. And I tell you this, with all the talking that's going on against him, I could understand why he would feel the need to get out here and talk. Because this is a part of the 24-hour news cycle that we got in this country. CNN, Fox, MSNBC, blogs, podcasts. I mean, all these various media outlets are constantly looping. Twitter, Facebook are constantly looping the guilt of this man. I mean, the foregone conclusion that he is guilty, and they're looping it. I don't see how he's going to get a fair trial, to be honest with you, because everybody's talking about it so much. When they start doing voir dire for the jury panel, I think they'll find it very difficult to find anyone who's not heard and reach some conclusion. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Eventually, I'm sure they will be able to pick a jury, but I'm just saying, so much has been said about this that I could understand his impulse to want to get out here and plead and beg for his life. It's, again, probably not advisable, but I can understand it. And let me tell you this, we have a president who does it every day. We have a president who gets on television, Twitter, and every other means of media outlet, and he is continually lambasting those who are accusing him, like Robert Mueller, the Justice Department, the FBI. He's continually out here, and it seems to be working for Mr. Trump, because I saw recently that his approval rating increased by a couple of points. And so he's just out here just trying to undermine the credibility of Mr. Mueller and these various investigations that are going on against him. So again, I can understand Mr. Kelly's impulse to want to get out here and advocate for himself and beg for his life. But again, under most circumstances, we lawyers would strongly advise him not to do so. But he has the right to if he wants to. Now, third of all, and I kind of touched on this already, Mr. Kelly, as do all criminal defendants, have the right to a zealous defense. A zealous defense. So his lawyer is obligated ethically and legally to defend Mr. Kelly with everything he got, to give him a zealous defense, despite what the media says, despite what public opinion says, despite the fact that many people are angry with him and they hate him and they want to see him thrown into jail and never to be heard of again for the rest of his life and so forth. That's what many in the public want of him. But his lawyer has to get past all of that and has to zealously defend him. Under our Constitution, he is entitled to that. And I'm telling you that as a criminal lawyer, I've done so many times. I'm not representing anyone on that scale who across the nation, low even the world, who's probably being condemned as a rapist and a molester and a child molester and all of that on this scale, and who's gotten caught in this, level of notoriety. But, nevertheless, we lawyers, criminal defense lawyers, we have to provide a zealous defense. And this doesn't mean anything to you until it's you accused of something or someone that you love. And then all of this will make sense. Then you would understand why the law enshrined the Bill of Rights, okay? The amendments to the U.S. Constitution to protect the rights of the accused, okay? Then it really comes home when you're in that situation. Um, Next of all, the burden of proof. The burden of proof. The state has the obligation to prove every element of these charges, of this charge of aggravated criminal sexual abuse. And by the way, each one of them carries 3 to 7 years. So he's facing up to 70 years on these charges. All right. Now, but the state has the responsibility to prove their cases beyond a reasonable doubt. Beyond a reasonable doubt. There in the law, there are 5 different burdens of proof. I hope I can remember all 5 of them. The lowest one, and just watch this. The lowest one is reasonable suspicion. This is all the evidence that the police needs to stop you and to talk to you. Just that much evidence to believe you committed a crime. And then the next level is probable cause. And it's a little bit more, not low as reasonable suspicion, but it's probable cause enough to arrest you, to search you, a little bit more. And then there's a preponderance of the evidence. And that's what we use in civil cases. And it's just a little bit more than 50%. It's enough evidence to tilt the scale to make somebody believe what someone alleges is true. And then there's clear and convincing evidence. And that's what we use in family law cases, okay? Because again, the stakes are really high in those family law cases where you're about to lose your children or something. You know, the law says no. You got to show this by clear and convincing, okay? And then the final is beyond a reasonable doubt. And so reasonable suspicion is here. Probable cause there, preponderance there, clear and convincing evidence there, and beyond a reasonable doubt way up here. It's a tall order, okay? Beyond a reasonable doubt, beyond all reasonable doubts, okay? So the state has that burden of proving their case. Mr. Kelly, as I said earlier, can go, him and his lawyers, and sit at the table, not open their mouths, although I'm sure they will be opening their mouths, but they don't have to. They can sit there because the burden is on the other side of the room, okay? And that burden is on the state to produce evidence to prove beyond all reasonable doubt that Mr. Kelly committed these offenses, okay? And it's a tall order, all right? And so they gotta, the defense gotta work hard to pick a good jury that is not influenced by what's been said on the television, not influenced by some of the, so let me explain this. There are 10 charges here, aggravated criminal sexual abuse. One of the things that concern me the most is the fact that the state will probably try to get admitted cases or incidents of Mr. Kelly abusing or raping someone else that is unrelated to these 10 cases, just to try to show that this man has this propensity. This is his character. This is just the type of guy he is. In other words, Mr. and Mrs. Jury, not only did he do these 10, but this man is accused of doing this for numbers and for many, many others. And so the state oftentimes will try to get that evidence in of the other allegations. And so when the jury hears, that so many women have made these allegations against Mr. Kelly, that's going to do what? Influence their opinion and decision on the 10 cases that are before him. That's kind of what happened to Bill Cosby, okay? Bill Cosby was on trial for one, if I recall, one case, but the prosecutors were able to get 5 or 6 other cases, I don't know the exact number, but they were able to get other cases admitted into evidence. And so the jury is sitting there now thinking, wow, if he did that, if he's accused of that, then yeah, he definitely did this one. That's why we fight hard as lawyers to keep all that mess out. The only thing those juries should be hearing is the evidence and whatever charge is before them, not some stuff that happened back in the 80s and the 90s and all of that. No, what happened with respect to these cases, because that other stuff, those extraneous offenses, those prior bad acts, all of that is highly prejudicial. And we argue that the probative value of that stuff is substantially outweighed by the evidence in the case. Okay? That's the argument that we make. And then we also make, Judge, if you let that stuff in, that's going to prejudice the jury. They're going to think, they're going to say, okay, he has to be guilty if all these people have said this. And that's going to take their eyes off the evidence that is before them. I'm concerned that that is what's going to happen with Mr. Kelly. Okay? I'm sure his lawyers are going to fight hard to keep all that other stuff out. But because prosecutors, you know, the law, at least here in the state of Texas, the law makes exceptions, you know, so they can say, well, we're not trying to show that he has this propensity, or we're not trying to show that he has bad character, anything like that. No, Judge, we're trying to show motive. We're trying to show intent. Well, for whatever reason it comes in, it's unfair to the person sitting, to the defendant, because he shouldn't be judged on these allegations that he haven't been indicted for. He should be judged on the evidence for the cases that he has been indicted for. I hope you understand what I'm saying. Okay? And that really brought me to, that's a segue into the fifth thing that I wanted to talk about, these extraneous offenses, because they can get a defendant. All right? They can get a defendant. And all I'm saying again is, if someone is accused of committing, if someone is allegedly murdered 50 people, but he's only been indicted on one murder, talk of conversations about other stuff related to those other 49 allegations should not come into that one murder case, because that's going to cause the jury to think, whoo, this is a bad dude. If he allegedly did these 49 murders, then yeah, he definitely did this one. That's why we try to keep that out. So Mr. Kelly got all that he's dealing with. Okay? He has a lot. So those are just 5 of the issues that I wanted to talk to you about with respect to Mr. Kelly's case. Number 1, he's presumed innocent. Number 2, should he have spoken? You know what? Again, most lawyers would not have wanted him to, but it's up to him. I don't know what he and his lawyers did about that. That he definitely, number 3, he definitely has a right to a zealous defense. Number 4, the burden of proof here on the state is beyond a reasonable doubt. And it's very, very, very high burden. Okay. And number 5, these extraneous offenses and other bad acts that are outside these indictments, they shouldn't come in. I mean, they just have tremendous potential to prejudice the jury, to confuse the jury, to mislead the jury, and convict the man, not based on the hard evidence in front of him, but just because of the volume of allegations against him. So those are the 5 things that I wanted to talk to you about with respect to Mr. Kelly's case. That's it. I appreciate you all joining in and getting something here. I hope you all got something from this. I, again, just want to say I represent people all the time who are accused of doing heinous crimes. The whole world has turned its back on them. They stand accused with the awesome, tremendous power of the state coming down on them. God has always given me the heart to stand with that person. Even before I became a lawyer, I'd stand with that person. You know why? Some of it's because, you know what? I haven't always been looked upon, favorably. And I'm not now in many people's eyes. And so I know what it's like to feel condemned and rejected and mistreated and so forth by folks. And I know the importance of having a friend and having an advocate. That's what the Holy Spirit does for us. When we're in these situations, when we've messed up, the Holy Spirit doesn't condemn us. He doesn't, kick us to the curb and all of that. No, he stands with us. And that's what Jesus does. And that's what the Holy Spirit does. Okay? I'm not saying that if someone does wrong, that that just should be overlooked. I'm not saying that at all. But I am saying that we've all done wrong. The Bible says we've all fallen short of the glory of God. And because of that, I'm just that individual who will stand there and stand shoulder to shoulder with that individual who's condemned like that and will advocate for him. So I hope Mr. Kelly gets a strong defense here. That's all I got to say. I love every one of you. You may be saying I don't know what you're saying. Because I know that this type of case is very emotional and controversial and so forth. I wanted to approach it as a lawyer. Now, if you notice, I didn't approach it from a personal perspective. Okay, I have a daughter, have a wife. I didn't come at it from that angle. I came at it from the angle of a lawyer. My attitude when I represent folks who are accused of crimes. Okay? God bless y'all.